I am the king of this land, and to complete 100%, I have to get all 35 achievements, including making impossible choices, fighting a war, performing a dark ritual, dealing with my family, surviving a siege, solving a murder mystery, dealing with my daughter's weird pets, and trying to rule this kingdom the best I can. Things didn't go as planned.
Oh no!
Welcome to 100% of Yes, Your Grace. We began with the flash forward, dealing with a deserter in the middle of the war. If we let him loose, many would follow, but we needed everyone who could hold a sword. I decided to let him live. We will defeat the enemy no matter the odds. For Davern. 1 year earlier, I was in the royal garden, playing hide and seek with my wife and kids, but I was soon interrupted by my advisor. It was time to go to the throne. These are the kingdom's gold, food, army, and happiness. The first petitioner said that his daughter's wedding was approaching, but they didn't have enough gold or supplies to make a worthy feast. He asked for 5 gold and 5 supplies. We seemed to have plenty to spare, and I wanted to be a good king. So I said yes. This improved the happiness of the people. The next person asked for 7 gold to be able to build an inn for their village. It was a reasonable ask, so I accepted, bringing up happiness once more. When I thought the day was over, another person appeared, saying that beasts dressed in black came at night and attacked their village. He begged me for help. I sent my agent to take care of it. Sometimes before finishing the week, I would need to see my family members first. I went to talk to my daughter at the wall. Lorsulia was really mad. Her sister was rude to her. I tried making her feel better, but to no avail. After this, I went to the dungeon. The soldiers said that the recent rain damaged the buildings. We needed to do something. The scribe wrote a list of things that needed to be fixed. This would show up in the weekly summary. I talked with the prisoner there. He'd barely survived the collapsed roof. He thought it was a sign of the gods that he was still alive, and asked me if he could get away. His crime wasn't too bad, so I let him free. I was interested in seeing what consequences this had. Last thing I did was to talk to Asalia. I told her to stop being so mean to her sister and finish my first week. Here, I would be able to see my kingdom's income and expenses. I also could buy upgrades and fixes for the castle. The broken pantry room made me lose 5 supplies each week, but the repairs were too expensive to pay right now. I will take care of it later. Week 2. The general returned from the village. Turns out there were no monsters at all, although they stumbled upon some bandits. They were pillaging the village. I asked who was their leader. They were free people. These crimes couldn't go unpunished. I decided to put his life to an end. His brothers would hear about this. I asked Audrey what he thought about this. He wondered how they got through the mountains and why would they threaten a war. It might be reasonable to start thinking about renewing some old treaties, talk to old friends, and see who could give us a hand. With our current resources, a war will bring defeat. He would make some preparations. Meanwhile, I talked with Lorsulia, my daughter. Asalia sneaked out at night last week to some wedding. An ex-petitioner was a peasant. His son was nowhere to be found. With a possible war approaching, it wasn't a bright idea to send the general out. But at the same time, I couldn't do nothing about it, so I gave him some money. The father didn't take this kindly. He refused it. The next petitioner was Lord Eton, the Lord of Branca. Someone kidnapped his daughter, and they expect him to pay 12 gold to get her back. Thing is, he tracked them down and knew where they were keeping her. He planned everything out. He just needed my general to take her back, or he could just pay the ransom. It was a lot of gold, but keeping alliances at this time was crucial, so I decided to pay him. The last petitioner said that he feared for his life, saying that someone was trying to get him, but he didn't know who or why. Then he just left. I couldn't do anything. This man was a lord. I went to the gardens. I talked with Asalia there. We talked about a wedding in the village just outside our walls. The wedding I held by giving money was the one my daughter escaped to. I said that I was worried about her. She was really angry at her sister, saying mean things. As a punishment, I said no more visits to the market. But this angered her even more, cursing Lorsulia. I better talk to her. I saw her at the wall. She was worried about marrying a stranger. I promised her she wouldn't have to do that. Last place I went to was was the bedchamber, where I talked with my wife about the foreign barbarians. She said it could be because of our promise. 13 years ago, we promised our unborn child's hand to a thug, Bayron. My wife said we will need to find a husband for Lorsulia soon. We couldn't let this happen. She was terrified. And so, we reached the end of week 2. Fixing the market stall will let me gain 2 gold per week, and we needed some more gold. I decided to take the risk and do it. Week 3. A pigeon arrived through the window. It was a message from Bayron, the king of Rodovia, saying that they will come for what was promised. My daughter, Audrey, didn't know about my promise. I told him about it. He left to seek help. The first petitioner of the day was a banker. He would give me 50 gold in exchange for a small fee, which I would have to pay weekly in amounts of 10. I decided to go for gold. With it, I could fix the pantry and get more resources weekly. A villager reported men dressed in black stealing their stock. I aided their village with some gold so they could buy enough food to feed their families. Next, a merchant came with a business proposition. He needed 12 gold to hire men and buy resources to build a new tavern in Branca. He would share the profits. It was a lot of gold. I told him to come back another time. The last petitioner said that a disease was crawling in their village. Fevers and sneezes all over the place. I gave them all the supplies I had. After leaving the throne, I went to the council chamber to talk with Audrey. He said he appointed a scout to let us know what we were up against. He also suggested to invite King Talus. He might be able to help. And so, I sent an invitation to King Talus. With his army, we should be able to repel Rodovia. Serani was next to the table. She seemed to like her nickname. This granted me an achievement. I told her she shouldn't be playing here. She really wanted to stay. I told her she could. With the gold I gathered from the loan, I fixed the pantry room, removing the supplies penalty from treasury. The last repair remaining was a theater. But I needed to pay the loan, so I decided to save up the money. Week 4. King Talus arrived, and out of nowhere, my daughter came running, screaming at me, saying that Azalia put feces under her pillow. I told her I was busy. King Talus wasn't happy about this. We went to talk to the council room. Talus wasn't happy that my child was here. He shouted at her, saying to be gone. I told him I needed an army, that Rodovia threatened me and my family. Talus said that he would give me 3,000 soldiers in exchange for something. His son, Ivo, wanted a princess. Lorsulia would be good enough for him. He also wanted access to the collections of books I had. His wife seemed to be sick. An army for a marriage in return. I couldn't say no. I agreed, but we'd do it on my terms. I demanded he provide a general to help with our people's needs. He offered to just pay for one of mine. I got the 3,000 soldiers in my army now. With this, I met a new ally. When lords have news, a greener icon appears by their name, like this one on Lady Ada. I sent a pigeon to invite her. Going back to the throne room, Lord Eaton was back, saying that his daughter returned thanks to paying the thugs the ransom. They won't be a problem anymore. As a thank you, he gave me 14 gold. Plus, happiness went up. Having dealt with all the petitioners today, I went back to the bedchamber to talk with Aurelia. I told her about Lorsulia's marriage. She was happy about this. Ivo was a prince, and if Lorsulia was married to him, then Bayron couldn't do anything. The last thing remaining for the week was to talk with Lorsulia. It wasn't an easy thing to say. After my promise to her, she didn't take it well. She didn't want any of this. She ran away, crying. There was nothing else to do. Later that night, someone was knocking at the door. Rodovian forces had been spotted nearby. We needed to send our men to track them down. They've come for Lorsulia. I sent the general to check this. There were 4 weeks remaining until the wedding. Having fixed the market stalls and the pantry roof, we were no longer losing resources. But the costs for the wedding were pretty high. Between the flowers, the fabrics, and the band, I would have to spend like half of my gold and almost all my supplies. I decided to wait a bit longer. Week 5. The general returned. Rodovians had formed stationary posts around our castle. The Rodovian post needed to be eliminated for the wedding. Plus, I still needed to provide for the people's needs. This is the map of my kingdom. Here is my home, and these are all the Rodovian posts. I began with the west post, sending an agent to explore this location. It will take 1 week. The first audition of the day was Lady Ada. She had a favor to ask of me. There was a nefarious thief going from lord to lord lord, pretending he needed help. He convinced other nearby lords to give him gold, including her. The thief was pretending to be a merchant, saying his goods had been stolen. If I found him, I will send him to her as soon as possible. The next petitioner was the same merchant from last week. He needed gold for the tavern. It could be worth it for the steady income. I decided to risk it. After all, we were in a surplus of money. I gained an achievement because I invested in tavern business. Next person was Sedani. She was worried about Lorsulia. She asked what would happen to her when she leaves. She even was worried about Lorsulia's cat, Dusty. Last petitioner said that monster with steel came in the night and took their cattle. I decided to give him some supplies. I tried searching for Lorsulia, but she was not at the castle walls. Maybe Asalia knew where she was. We trained together for a bit. Lorsulia locked herself up in her chamber. Asalia really enjoyed the training. I promised her that we will do it again. Week 6. The general was back. There were no signs of the Rhodovians at the west coast, but the Rhodovians left gold and supplies behind. Not bad. I sent the general to the north. Lord Pietro was back, saying that they were after him, and then he just left again. Strange. Next, my wife asked me if I'd seen Lorsulia. She seemed to be locked at her chamber still. There was nothing else to do than to give her time. A soldier said that another village had been raided by Rhodovian forces. To help them out, I needed to send the general, but I didn't have any left. I couldn't help them. This had a negative effect on people's happiness. We needed more generals. The last petitioner was a merchant. He brought a mixture that could cure illness, curing almost anything. I of course said no. There were 2 weeks remaining for the wedding, so I bought some fabrics and some flower decorations. Week 7. The general was back. The only post remaining was the east. I sent the general there. The first petitioner was happy about the new inn. Every week, they would contribute 1 gold to the kingdom. The merchant was back. The tavern I helped establish was up and running. He would start sharing the profits with me. 1 gold every week. 1 gold every week? That was really low. I asked for 3 pieces of gold instead. He accepted. Next, Sedani said that she got a different pet. A snail. She was calling him Smudge. Next, a peasant. He seemed really drunk. Would you happen to have any spare gold, Yushi? 1 piece of gold is all I asked for. Tell him to get out of here. The following peasant said that his village had been raided by bandits. This time, there seemed to be locals. Food supplies and cattle were stolen. I gave them 7 sacks of supplies. Kinda like Rhodovia had a copycat of sorts. The last petitioner was a merchant. It was the man Lady Ada warned me about. He said he was robbed. I called the guards and sent him to prison. We should let Lady Ada know that we found her wrongdoer. 1 week until the wedding. It was time to hire the band. The queen wanted to see me, but first, the general. No signs of the Rhodovians at the east post. There was nothing left behind. With the Rhodovians posts gone, we were ready for the wedding. The crazy lord appeared again. He said that I was involved in this, and then he just left. He really lost his mind. Then, Lorsulia came out of her chamber. She asked me to meet her at the wall. She wanted to talk with me. The last petitioner was a peasant. Her father was very sick with fever. Audrey said that if we had a court witch available, she could handle these diseases. We would look for one. As for their father, I gave them some gold to buy medicine or pay a healer. They were really grateful for this. Time to see my daughter. She was sorry for shouting at me. She just wished things were different. She wished she would have spent the last couple of days with me and not angry at me. She said she loved me. I loved her too. More than anything in this world. It was time for the wedding. I went to see Aurelia. Everything was ready, apart from one last thing, choosing a dress. She really wanted the puffy one, but it cost 50 gold. The bank said they would help us fund the dress. It wouldn't cost us anything until the wedding was over. At the same time, the middle one cost every single coin we got. Since the first dress was a loan, I decided to go for that one. So, in the queen's eyes, the dress I chose was perfect. It was time for the wedding. A new achievement. I told my daughter that I wouldn't let her marry someone inappropriate. This sealed the deal. I got an army until I got the archives. The party went on. There seemed to be something wrong with the food. Someone ate Smudge, Sedani's pet. The king wanted to go back to the archives, but someone wanted to make a toast first. I moved and tried to help him, but Talis was on the ground before anyone had a chance to react. He was dead. The priest saw his dad die in front of his eyes. Ivo was angry, asking how could we let this happen. He told me I failed as a host and that I was responsible for the event of tonight. Ivo had to take the crown. He put it on. And as the new king of Atana, his first order was to withhold the armies that his father promised to me. He wouldn't even pay for my agent. He told me I was responsible, unless I could prove the opposite upon a royal trial. Until that trial, Davern will not receive support from Atana. Ivo told Ursulia to pack her things, try to stop it, but the marriage still stood. This couldn't end well. To make an agent available in the next week, I would need to pay them. With the money that I had, I repaired the theater. Week 10. Lord Etun was telling me everything he could recall about the night to help with the investigation. We examined all the guests, and still we didn't hear anything out of the ordinary. Tally's soldiers were the main bulk of our army. Solving the murder case will surely convince Ivo to aid us in the battle. We needed to seek help from other lords, in case we couldn't convince Ivo in time. Make allies, sign treaties. Lord Etun mentioned that he had a hefty army waiting for orders. He could even throw some extra gold and supplies to aid me too. In exchange, he wanted lures from Pendle. He stopped delivering spices to his associates in Branca. I needed to persuade the lures to renew the deliveries, and Lord Eton's men would aid me in battle. I would see what could be done. Audrey also marked areas of interest on the map. I could use the map to explore locations and help locals to try to gain some extra resources. I could go to Luva, Wallaby, or Cosno. To prepare for the battle, I needed to make alliances with lords. Some lords would provide extra gold or supplies in addition to their army offer. So, I invited lures. The banker. They came because they covered the cost of the dress. I would have to pay this in weekly installments of 10 gold. Next, we interrogated the servant. I asked him what happened during the wedding night. He didn't know anything. He said that the dungeon guard might know something. He mentioned he saw someone in the wine cellar that night. The last petitioner, a peasant, sent his son to gather some brushwood in the forest. It turned out he couldn't find a way back home. They asked me to find him. I gave them some gold to help. He was really happy for being paid by losing his son. He said he was going to send all the other brats into the forest. Okay, this didn't go as I expected. He seemed too happy about this. The pigeon carried a message from Lorsolia. We have arrived. Atana is nothing like Davern. The vast streets of Hagos expand endlessly, it seems. I'm really sorry for the last weeks we spent together. Hug mother for me. Yours, Lorsolia. I needed to write an answer for the letter. I asked my family what they would want to write about. After all that, I went to the dungeon to speak with the guard. I asked him if he knew anything about Tally's death. Turns out the guard found something. Some kind of tooth right in the wine cellar. But he didn't see anyone going in there. I told my wife about the clue. She said to take it to a hunter. We needed to put out a word that we were looking for one. Before that, it was time to write the letter. I asked her about herself and that we were missing her. Last thing I did was to send an agent to Luba. My army needed food and supplies to stay maintained and ready for battle. The bigger the army I have, the more supplies it will cost to maintain it. If I don't pay the army upkeep costs, I will lose some soldiers. Things were starting to get difficult. With the loan for the wedding dress, we were losing money. I will need to be more careful with how we spend the gold. Week 11. The generals at a nearby river had dried up. The residents had been carrying water to their homes from a lake for days. He helped them with his horse, and now they had extra water saved for a few days. We gained a lot of happiness from the villagers. Our scouts reported that we will need a battalion of at least 1,000 soldiers to survive the war. Lord Lurs arrived. I asked him about the spices. Lord Edgen traded his spices with presses to get fortune dabs. It seemed to be something highly addictive. It makes a lot of coin, but it costs a lot of lives. He implored me to not buy any oracle dust, and if I heard of anyone trying to sell the dust, put them in the dungeons. If I do the right thing, his army will stand by my side when the war begins. 200 soldiers plus 6 supplies. Eton was selling dust near Kaski. The first step in the right direction would be to stop their deliveries. I said he was right. There was no place for things like that in Davern. Lastly, I asked him about the animal tooth, but he had nothing useful to say. Audrey said that if we send the general to Kaski, he should be able to stop the sales. If we managed to do it without problems, we could show Lurs that we were on his side and get his army and supplies. Although this would probably offend Eton and he would not join our banners. I decided to send an agent to Kaski. Paranoid Lord came back again. He was sorry about what he said last time, but he said someone was after him. I asked him if there was anything I could do to help him. He said he saw a man. He didn't make any sense at all. With the assassination of the king, having someone like this running around, seeing things, was too dangerous. I decided to imprison him. Sedani was missing Lord Sulia. She wanted to know if I asked about Dusty in the letter. I told her I will do so. Asalia wanted to practice sword fighting. I said we will do so later. Only one remained. Peasants said that men with monsters on their banners came ravaging their village, setting their barn on fire. They asked for help, but the only general I had was away. They asked for a lot of supplies. I didn't know what to do, but I decided to help them. They were really happy about this. Having finished with all of this, I went to practice sword fighting with Asalia. It was pretty fun, spending some quality time with my daughter. She asked if I heard something about Sedani. She pulled a prank on her sister. I said it was not funny at all. Told her to stop pulling those pranks on her. Before finishing the week, I went to the dungeon and talked with Pietro. He felt safer in the cell. He said he didn't have to worry about anyone coming after him. He even wished he would have just asked me to imprison him straight away. He said he owed me his life. He wanted to give me his army. I got 4 more soldiers in my army. Before ending the week, I decided to invite Lena. With the invitation sent, it was time to end the week. Week 12. The general said that the situation was pretty hard. Nonetheless, they secured Lord Eton's dust wares. Management of the kingdom. How each decision matters and has consequences. The strategy behind it reminds me of turn-based strategy games, like Warhammer 40,000 Tacticus, where you control warriors in skirmishes. It's a challenging turn-based tactical strategy game where you have to carefully position your units, taking advantage of the high ground and avoiding hazardous terrain. One of my favorite things is to set high grass on fire, which spreads to nearby hex grids easily. Movement and positioning are crucial, and I love that. It's a great game to have on the go. There are multiple factions and champions to recruit. I really like the Adepta Sororitas because of Edicta, who has a fire attack that I mentioned before. You can play against or alongside other players, but personally, I really enjoy the PvE campaign. There are also live events, guild raids, and more. The developers keep updating the game with new content, features, game modes, and events. It has an average rating of 4.5 in app stores and is an officially licensed Games Workshop game. So scan my QR code on screen or click the link in the description to play Warhammer 40,000 Tacticus now. Be sure to use the code HelloMar to earn 2,000 coins and 50 black stones. I met Lady Lena. Lurs had explained the situation to her. She would be able to help me in exchange for something. I had something she wanted to give her son. Someone, actually. She would like my daughter, Asalia, to marry him, to strengthen our relationship. And as a start, she will lend me her army. 300 fully equipped and trained soldiers. And along with the men, 4 gold and 5 supplies. I told her to let me think about it. Then, Sedani showed me her new pet called the Stabber. The hedgehog. She wanted the Stabber to become a prince so it could help her get Loli back. The last petitioner told me that his village had been raided by bandits and they killed his entire family. This will take my general 2 weeks to take care of, but I needed to do something about this. I decided to send him away. I went to talk with Asalia to tell her about Lady Lena. I asked her what her thoughts were. She didn't think she was ready for this. It was on me to decide this, knowing that a war was coming. I talked with my wife to see what she thought about this. She said we needed as much help as we could get, but she didn't want to let Asalia go yet. She left the decision up to me. I didn't want to give another daughter away. I didn't want to repeat the same mistakes. It was best to decline the offer. Week 13. A message from Lord Sulia. My husband, King Ivo, is very good to me. He has done everything to make me feel at home. I spend most of my days reading books and learning about Etana. King Ivo wishes me to grow familiar with their traditions. Last week, I met Paloma, the king's mother. She's poorly, but King Ivo says he will continue his father's quest to find a cure for her illness. Yours, Lord Sulia. I sent her a message about Dusty to fulfill my promise to Sedani. Then I told Lady Lena that I declined the marriage. She didn't take it well at all. The next petitioner said that her family just moved to the capital. They would like a bigger house with a bigger garden and a better front porch. 25 gold. Would have gold to waste on their new house. They didn't seem to take it well because of my daughter's wedding dress being so expensive. The next petitioner came from the forest. She was the leader of the cult of the trees. In the middle of the forest, they had a sacred oak, and because of all the recent rains, the area around it had flooded. The water kept ruining all over its roots. Their people needed this tree to pray to. People's life didn't seem to be a danger, so I decided to pass on this. Last petitioner was a traveling merchant, selling rather exclusive wares. Turns out he was actually selling packs of dust. I sent him to my dungeons. I wouldn't allow Oracle dust in Tavern. Audrey said that we should check in with Lurs. He could be ready for an alliance. I sent an invitation to him. Week 14. Another message. The craft will flourish. No man can stop. In the middle of the night, we shall meet. For the dust spreads fastest in the sandstorm. It's gotta do something with the oracle dust. We should pass this on to Lurs. The general came back. He found the bandits drinking away in the forest nearby. Then I told Lurs I've done their tasks. He was happy about it, but there was a small problem. With Etten not buying his spices, others have turned their backs on him as well. He had to start trading with Radovians. This was treason. He said he wouldn't be able to sustain his armies if he didn't do this. The only other option was if I bought the spices from him, but he would need monthly installments. If I didn't like any of these options, we would part ways. I decided it was fine for him to keep selling the goods. Now I got 200 more men in my army for a total of 304. Next, I showed Lurs the secret message. This alliance gave us many benefits. We should expect an increase to our income at the end of the next week. A lady appeared. She said it was good that I declined Lady Lena's proposition. She told me about the curse that plagued Lena's family. They say that if her son does not participate in the act of marriage before his 20th spring, he would fall asleep and never wake up. There was a way to lift the spell. That's why Lena was desperately looking for someone to marry her son, to lift the bane. But the problem is, you couldn't completely get rid of it. If her son got married, the spell would move on to the bride, and she would die the following night. Lastly, Sedani asked for 1 piece of gold for her pet. She said she would pay it back. Although it was cute, we didn't have a gold to waste. She wondered where she could find a black rooster for some reason. Now, I was an ally of Lurs. I decided to invite Noxie, who seemed to have the next biggest army. Lastly, I sent my general to Wolomie. Week 15. A message from Bayron. Dear Eric, I hear that I'm already too late to marry your daughter. We had some struggles, but we will be ready within 14 weeks. I believe we can explore other options, and I hope that you will keep to your promise. Bayron. 14 weeks. We needed to gather an army, to make alliances, and hope Ivo would help us. I passed out. Barovia was coming. 14 weeks. The doctor said I was worrying too much. I'd better get on with things. Back at the throne room, we needed to focus on gathering as many allies as possible, inviting lords to see how we could make alliances with them. We also needed to focus on the evidence items for the royal trial. I sat on the throne again. The general said that a nobleman visiting a local village had problems with some folks stealing his goods from him. He asked to find those responsible. The search wasn't hard, and he brought them back for justice. The nobleman was very grateful and paid us with 11 gold. The next person, Noxie, the dragon slayer, the one I sent the invitation to. He claimed to have killed the dragon in the eastern forests. He told me the full story. I told him about Radovia. He said it was a hell of a challenge, but he could help me. He met a lot of people. He would give me soldiers and supplies. He could gather almost 200 men and 5 supplies. To my surprise, he didn't ask anything in return. He just wanted the fame. And just like that, I almost had 500 men in my army. Just in case, I showed him this large tooth I found. He had no idea where it was from. Then, the drunk man returned. This time, he told me all his story, how he lost everything at the storm. He asked me for gold to buy a fishing rod and nothing else. I decided to give him gold for food and new clothing. Maybe he could sort his life out. Then, the woman from the woods returned, saying that the rain didn't stop and 2 people in her community passed away, and it was all my fault. Lastly, a merchant appeared. He presented to me a magical... This animal was enchanted. He could tell a lie from a truth, and when it sensed a lie, it would voice its disapproval. To test it, I tried telling a lie. Seemed to be working. He asked 18 gold for it. I offered him 16, just because my daughter will be quite happy with it. New achievement, buy a rooster for Sedani. Sedani will love this. Before ending the day, I sent an invitation to Violet. Week 16. Audrey said that considering last week's incident, we should think about securing an heir. If I didn't have a rightful heir, Ivor would be next in line. I told him I was working on it. First person was Violet. Their elders seemed to have fought against the Radovians years before her. She wanted to reward me for my bravely actions. She would give me all that she could to aid me in battle, 3 gold and 150 army, with one condition. The deal will be off the table if I ever held any of them. Just like that, I got 150 army, leading me to a total of more than 600. I showed her the tooth I found in my wine cellar, but she couldn't help. Next person was a merchant. He came from the tavern. Some local panders saw an opportunity to use the place to find customers. Now the tavern has turned into a brothel. Panders cause all sorts of trouble, having to deal with disrespectful, violent men. They could take over the tavern completely and leave us with nothing. I told him to kick the panders out. He asked if I could send a general for a few weeks to help out. I decided to do so. Maybe this way we wouldn't lose it permanently. The next person said that their village was on fire last week, and I helped them. They found assistance just in time. They wanted to bring the greatest of blessings to me. Next person said that they lost their only and beloved pig. They heard that I pay gold for lost ones. I declined this. Word was spreading out about my kindness. They were trying to take advantage of me. Then, Asalia asked if we could practice the sword fighting again. I told her I would catch up with her in a bit. Lastly, I showed Sedani the new pet. She seemed to really like it. There was a paving stone that caught my attention. If I could get something sharp and thin to lift it. In the gardens, I saw Asalia sparring with someone else. She was called Maya. When she sneaked out to the wedding party, that's when she met her. Before finishing the day, I invited Joven. Week 17. A letter arrived. The western woods near Branca are not uninvolved in your travels. An uncommon object can lead you to the center. Be quick. Yours sincerely. We needed to send a general to these woods to see what the matter was, but I wasn't able to send anybody. I would have to remember to do this next week. First audition was Lord Joven. He will lend me 120 men and give me 5 gold, but only if Sir Frederick joined our ranks. He was his superior officer. I told him I would send a pigeon right away. Next was a peasant. He seemed to have sat down on top of the hedgehog. Was this tower, of course. Suddenly, someone named Elena appeared. She knew about brewing potions. She could help with diseases. A witch. You could definitely use someone like this. She accepted to join us. She would even help during the battle. New achievement, unlocking the witch. Next person had their village raided. Men dressed in red and black. The Radovian army. They were getting closer to us. If we fought them off, they could get angry and fight back with more force. But at the same time, tolerating their attacks would encourage them to carry out more. I didn't even have a general available to send there, so I was only able to aid them with supplies. They didn't take it well. Last person was a mercenary. There were 22 skilled men asking for 16 gold. I preferred to use the money for the upgrades. Nonetheless, they would be back in 2 weeks. Lastly, I told Sedani about the hedgehog. I sent an invitation to Sir Frederick and sent the witch to the hidden hut. At the bedchamber, I managed to grab some needles. These could be used at the gardens. In the crack I found a piece of paper, a letter. It had a map of the castle. It looked like an instruction letter. To whoever poured poison in Talus wine, was beautifully decorated with some flowers. I didn't usually decorate our letters. Maybe we could trace these drawings to the person who wrote this. I showed this to my wife. She said that we should ask the general. I needed to wait for my general to come back. Week 18. The general helped the tavern owner get rid of the panders. Before I forget, I went to talk with the general in private to show him the letter. He said he will ask around to see if anybody in the village knew anything. Back at the throne room, the witch returned, saying the wooden hut in the forest appeared to be some sort of kitchen for preparing spices. It was abandoned. They searched the place and found the vial hidden under the flooring. Got plenty of clues now. I went to talk with the witch in private to talk about the vial. I asked her to check if the residue match the poison from Talis wine. It will take some time, 2 weeks specifically. Next, I met Sir Frederick. He offered his 80 men 4 gold and 2 supplies, but he couldn't allow liars to taint the knight's honor. He wanted a single person who could confirm the accomplishments of Noxie, someone who actually saw him fight. If we show everyone what he was really made of, he would stand by my side in one more battle. Next, the merchant told me that they managed to move to another inn down the village. It would take a while before we could make profits again. Then, a peasant said that a witch escaped, saying that Babushka was out of the woods. I wasn't able to send a general, and I definitely couldn't afford this, so there wasn't much I could do. Lastly, someone said that they couldn't feed everyone in the barn because there were too many people gathering to pray. They wanted to build a new shrine. They asked for the court witch and money, but I couldn't afford this, and the witch was busy, so I couldn't help with this either. I sent a pigeon to Noxie to take care of that matter, to fulfill my promise to Sir Frederick. The money that I got, I decided to pay for the training grounds this time. Week 19. I told the Dragon Slayer about the monster. He took the bait. The drunken man returned. He looked great. After giving him the gold, he realized he could make something about himself. He found a new path of life. He even was helping the less fortunate in the town. He felt like he had a purpose in this world. He just wanted to say thank you. Couldn't be happier for him. He got an achievement and got some supplies. Amazing. Next person was a sorcerer from the market. He was out of most of his ingredients at the moment. He asked if I could help with some extra gold, but it was too much. I couldn't afford this, and the witch was busy with something else, so I couldn't help him. Next person seemed to be singing. His name was Torlando, a writer known across many halls and taverns. He was working on his latest release, but didn't know how to finish the piece. It was a story about royal intrigues. He wanted my general to join him, but there was no way I could do that. Lastly, a peasant said that his village was flooded, but no one got hurt. They needed gold to buy resources to rebuild their houses, but I couldn't afford this. There were other priorities. I sent another pigeon to meet another lord. Week 20. A message from Ursulia. Dear father, tells that Danny Dusty is fine. He was meowing for the first 2 days of the journey without stopping, so his voice was gone. He gave up after that and just slept the rest of the way. Unfortunately, King Ivo is allergic to cats, so we keep him outside our chambers. I miss all of you so much. Perhaps you could visit me one day. Yours, Ursulia. I wrote another letter asking her about Ivo, asking what he was like as a husband. The general came back. He said he didn't find anything specific about the decorations from the letter, but the word has it that the kings of the north usually decorate their correspondence. The witch found a match from the substance in this vial to the poison used on Talis, so he was quite certain that this was used to poison him. Then I met with Lord Grego. He wanted to help. He prided himself in the knowledge of art. He had the biggest collection of paintings in the kingdom. He heard that I held a very valuable painting. He could offer me 80 well-trained men and free supplies. I told him I would get the painting right away. I showed him the letter to see if he knew anything about it. It seems that a lord who wanted protection against witches and curses probably wrote this letter. Next person said that it was a mysterious fog who made people disappear without a trace. Couldn't afford sending the witch for this. Then, after this, a granny told me his grandson got involved with the oracle dust. Now he was very ill and couldn't leave the bed because of the dust, but I couldn't do anything about this. Lastly, a rooster had been running around our kitchen for days. It seems they made a broth with it. Sedani's pet. They cooked it. I told Sedani about the letter and the rooster. I didn't tell her about its death. I just told her I had to free him and that he was happier this way. Having taken care of all of this, I went through the castle, taking down every single painting. I sent a pigeon to Grego. I sent the witch to explore a new location. We were really low on gold and people's happiness too. Things were getting bad. Plus, the army was growing and we were losing supplies real fast. Week 21. The witch ran into a small bandit camp. They were keeping a merchant captive. She helped him out and in return, he gave us some gold. Next, Lord Grego returned. I gave him the painting. With this, I could count on his army to stand by me in the battle. He would buy any additional paintings too. I got 80 more soldiers in my army now. I sold him the other paintings too. One for 18 pieces of gold and another one for another 18 pieces of gold. With this, I could endure a bit longer. Now, we needed to take care on the people's happiness. Next was the Dragon Slayer. He brought some proof. Then the knight appeared, Sir Frederick, revealing that this was a lie. I asked if anybody has seen him slay the beast. The cat was out of the bag. He said that his stories didn't hurt anybody and that at least he didn't have a drinking problem. It seemed that the knight had problems with rum, and that wasn't the only thing. Big accusations. The knight said that the Dragon Slayer was making all of this up. I needed to choose a side. Sir Frederick said that he will send a recommendation to Jovan, but the accusations against Sir Frederick were so horrifying that I decided to side with the Dragon Slayer. After this, the banker showed up again, offering his services. I asked to borrow some gold, arriving to a total amount of 100. Then Sedani showed up. She was carrying a toy that didn't look like it was from our country. I gave it to her. Last person was a merchant. He was selling trinkets. I couldn't spare that amount of money. It appeared he was just trying to swindle some gold out of me. Before finishing the day, I went to see Maya. The toy wasn't from Baravia. Her accent, the toy, staying in Davern. She was from Radovia. This was the second time. My wife told Osalia to not see her friend anymore, banishing her from the castle. My wife was also worried about me. She was afraid that all of this was because of a witch. She would look into the curse. I went to see Osalia. She was sorry about this. Didn't want to hurt me. Osalia said that they were not bad. They were not barbarians. Lastly, I sent a pigeon to Masha, who were losing resources fast. So, I unlocked the stables to unlock 7 additional locations to explore on the map. This way, we could earn more resources. Week 22. We would have the royal trial when Ivo arrived, right before the battle. First, I talked with Masha. She said that Jonas, the buffoon with the stupid red gloves, said to lend him some gold, but he never paid back. She got until this evening to pay their man. She will need the money for only 2 weeks, and she will be able to pay me back after that. It was a lot of money, but we needed more troops, so I decided to help her. Next, Lady Ada came back. She heard that I was selling more paintings to Lord Vesemir. It seemed that he was no art collector. He bought bad works to burn them, something to keep in mind. Next person said that there was some weird anomaly in the woods up in the north, something like magic. It seemed to be that Lord Shogun's children went missing. I sent the witch to take a look at it. The last person was a merchant, selling packs of supplies. 22 supplies in exchange for 28 gold. I couldn't spend that amount of money, so I had to pass this opportunity. He would be back in Tavern in a few weeks' time. I sent a pigeon to Vialit and sent my general to Tilka. Week 23. General found an old lady in the nearby forest who needed help with some wolves. He dealt with them, and she gave us some supplies in return. 16 supplies. Vialit arrived. I needed to show the evidence to every lord. I showed her the letter and the vial, but learned nothing of use. After this, the peasant said that Babushka was back again, taking over 3 villages. I sent the general to one of the villages. Then Jovan arrived. Sir Frederick was dead, and he was responsible for ending Frederick's life. It seems the accusations were true. The drinking problems, everything. Seems everyone knew about this. No one lifted a finger to help. Everyone was too scared to do anything. If I spared Lord Jovan's life, he would aid me with 120 men. I decided to accept his help. With this, we're a lot more closer to the 1,000 soldiers we needed. Then, Sedani showed me her new pet, her new agent, Hesser. I let her keep the pet. It was pretty cute. Lastly, Aurelia asked me how I was feeling. She was worried about me. I told her to not feel guilty. I should do something to make her feel better. Maybe some sort of small gift. I only had a needle with me. I went around the castle, looking for anything I could use. Bookshelves, a chest, glove, a table. And then, I found some wool. Maybe I could make something out of it. I was able to combine the needle with the wool, but I needed something else to use it with. Looking around, I found an old fabric. Using all of this, I made a little gift. Hopefully she will like it. I showed her the tapestry. I told her that we were in this together, and that I loved her. She really liked it. She would have it framed. I got an achievement for this. I sent a pigeon to Lurs. That night, some things happened. We tried to have an heir, but it wasn't easy. Suddenly, Sedani appeared. Oh my... Asalia put something in her bedding. Some nettle powder. Told her to apologize to her sister. We almost had the full army we needed, but we were losing tons of gold. I wasn't able to pay my general or the witch this week. Week 24. The general came back from Oborka. It had a very strange aura, cold, full of red fog. He dealt with the man on the red horse, but he seemed like he was under a spell. The village calmed down after that. The witch returned. It was an ambush. The magical anomaly, it was nothing but a lure. They thought they could surprise her, but she spotted the footprints. Peasants with swords and spears were waiting for her. She turned back just in time. Someone was trying to weaken our forces. Next, I showed Lurs the letter and the vial, but he couldn't help. Then, it seemed that Eton and Talis were not on the best terms. Eton was fuming when Talis had his guards kick him out of the castle. After this, a traveling merchant arrived. He had a unique collectible item for me. A set of cards? This was the merchant Lady Masha warned me about. I imprisoned him. I should invite Lady Masha to tell her I found her lost friend. Next, a peasant asked for help against bandits. But I wasn't able to pay the general this week, so I couldn't send anybody. People's contempt was almost zero. Lastly, a fortune teller arrived, saying that I had a very interesting aura. She wanted to read my future. She wanted me to pay her in exchange. I couldn't afford spending money on this. Lastly, I sent a pigeon to Lady Masha. Week 25. Because of helping Lady Masha, she brought my money back and a little extra. In total, she gave me 32 gold, getting me to 82. I also told her about the person I had in my dungeons. She gave me some extra gold because of that. I not only almost had 90 gold, but I also reached the amount I needed for the war. I had over 1,000 troops. After this, a peasant said that a strong gale descended on their village. Their homes had suffered a lot of damage. I didn't have my witch or the general or the supplies to give it to them. This meant I couldn't help this time. I was in negative too. If the week ended like this, I would lose. That person was asking for help. He had a little bakery on the market. It seemed he sold oracle dust. If I didn't help, the people's happiness will probably go down even more. Oh no. Oh no! No! Oh my god, no! The people had enough. Peasants entered the throne room and they demanded 25 gold and 20 supplies. But I didn't have that amount. I had an achievement. Hit 0 villager contentment. We needed that achievement anyway, so going back to week 24, I would pay the general and the witch. Masha gave me the gold, getting me to 69 and over 1,000 troops. When the villager came to ask for help, I sent the witch to help protect their homes, upping the happiness to 6. For the last peasant, I sent my general, giving the happiness up to 10. With this done, I sent a pigeon to Lady Lena and finished week 25. Only 4 weeks remained until Radovia came, and I still needed to prepare my general and the witch. The army upkeep was really high, so for this week I decided to not pay the army and lose a little bit of soldiers, but use the supplies to prepare the witch and prepare the general. I showed Lady Lena all the evidence. She had seen something like that before from a charm necklace. The bigger the tooth, the more dangerous demons can protect you from. She had a small one too. Many soldiers wore this as a sign of their strength. She got hers from her father. Sometimes he had her letters decorated too. He decorated the letters with roses. Lastly, she mentioned that it could be used as charm necklaces to scare demons away, or used by soldiers to aid them in battle. I also found out that she sometimes decorated her correspondence with roses. After this, a peasant said that bandits ruled over their village. When they found out, they tried seeking help. The people I wasn't able to help, they told me they suffered terrible losses. I wasn't able to help the next peasant either. The season's rains had been tough on everybody. They were complaining about their fields constantly flooded, but there was nothing we could do about the rain. That person was complaining about rats taking over his barn. I wasn't able to send anybody because they were busy, so I couldn't help either. Before ending the week, I invited Lord Eton. To endure a little bit longer, I decided not to pay the army again, to earn some more supplies in case something happened. The good thing was, I was still over 1,000 soldiers. Week 27. Alju said that we were almost ready for the battle. This was our last chance to form any alliances and to ready our agents. When ready, we would march to the foothills of the mountains. Radovia would not expect us to meet them there. The general found the bandits who threatened the baker and his daughter and took care of them. After this, the witch told me that her task was too difficult. However, she managed to help the villagers. After this, I showed Lord Eton the evidence. He had nothing useful to say. Then, I asked him about about the spices. He said that oracle dust wasn't dangerous, and there was an easy way to make gold. If he didn't sell it, someone else would. I told him to stay away from Davor. Then, the mercenary returned, asking for 16 gold in exchange for 22 skilled men. As I already have all the army I needed, I declined the offer. Next, Torlando returned. He wanted some time with the witch to finish his work. I told him to come back in another time. After this, a hunter. Oh no, this hunter killed the fox, saying that they were dangerous pests. He came to offer his services and did this. He hunted down the fox, thinking he was doing a favor. Told him it was my daughter's pet. Sedani said that he should rot in the dungeons. He was really sorry. He came looking for gold, but because of all this trouble, he offered his services for free. He wanted to serve me and my people. He will even help during the battle with Barovia too. I accepted his help. Now I had another agent at my disposal. I should ask the hunter about the tooth I found. Another achievement. Having taken care of all of this, I headed to the dungeon to talk with the hunter. I showed him the tooth. It looked like it came from a big animal, maybe a griffin or a dragon. He had never seen such a thing. He would try to find out where it came from. He had a book on animal trophies. We would see if he could find something about it. Lastly, I sent a pigeon to Ada and sent the general to Jablonka and the witch to Belka. I decided to prepare the hunter for the battle and skipped paying the general and the witch to be able to endure until the fight. Week 28. A message from my daughter. Father, I don't have time to explain everything. I know you're not responsible for Tali's death, and I think Ivo knows who poisoned his father. The atmosphere here is very tense. Ivo and his advisors are talking behind my back. They wouldn't let me stay with them and always send me back to my chambers. I've heard Ivo say he has some kind of plan. I can't wait to see. The letter cut off. Something happened. She didn't finish the writing. The trial started next week. This was our last chance to gather evidence. We wouldn't need to pay agents for that week. The general came back. He didn't know what was going on, but when he arrived to Jablonka, it was shrouded with black storm clouds, but there wasn't a drop of rain anywhere else. He dealt with the man on the black horse. He was acting very oddly, shouting words in some foreign language. Then, the witch came from Belka. Something very strange was happening there too. It was covered in snow when she arrived, but after dealing with the man on the white horse, all the frost just melted. Whatever she did, it seemed to help. After this, the hunter brought information about the tooth. It was a very rare dragon tooth. It appeared to have come from an Ala demon, a female dragon who lived in the ancient forest of Kaldor. You couldn't get such an exotic tooth here in Davor. Next, I told Lady Ada that I found their thief. Now I could count with her help during the upcoming battle. 60 more soldiers. The next peasant said that the sacred oak was dying prematurely and nothing was helping. She asked me to send the hunter to help, but it would take 3 weeks, and we needed him for the battle. I couldn't afford that. This angered the people so much that I was on -1. My wife had some news. She was pregnant. Maybe I would have an heir. She had a good feeling about it. She hadn't told the girls yet. I would do so myself. Next peasant said that their village was attacked by animals, a pack of wolves. I decided to send the hunter because he would be back in time for the battle, and I needed to up the happiness of the people. The last person was named Bogoslav. Her lady was upset with him. Couldn't spend gold on this. I declined. The happiness went to zero again. Having taken care of all of this, I told my daughters about the new baby. I sent the pigeon to Grego 1 week until Rodovia came. I decided to skip the pay for the army again to be able to set up a carnival and gain more happiness for the people. It was time for the royal trial. First, we will question any witnesses that have a say in the matter, and then we will go through the evidence. And lastly, we will identify the killer. There were 3 people enlisted as witnesses. We began with Tali's advisor. His name was Rigo. He recognized Lady Elena. She visited their castle not long before the royal wedding and threatened King Talis. She said her son was supposed to be the one to marry Larsulia, not Ivo. She said that if the wedding were to go ahead, she would comfort Talis and his family. He said that she was clearly the perpetrator. Of course, she denied everything. Next, it was Talis's castle guard, Lutfrid. All he wanted to say was that he witnessed many people visiting Talis over the years, but none of them angered him as much as Noxi, because of how much of a liar he was. Talis called him a deceiver after he proposed to help his wife, Paloma. The only reason he did it was to become famous. Noxi was enraged, claiming he wasn't a fraud and that he would show Talis. Lastly, a peasant from Branca, Hermer. He was from Lord Eton's town. He owned a vineyard, and he was observing Lord Eaton for a while. He had been acting really strange, walking around the village in a trance. One time, he pissed all over his grape flowers. He said he was not a nice man, and he was convinced that it was him who poisoned Tallis. Those were all the witnesses we had. Then we saw the evidence. First, the animal tooth, an item so rare only one known person could have returned from such an encounter alive, Noxi the Dragon Slayer. The tooth was examined, and only one creature fit this unique shape, an Allah demon from the far lands of Calador. And who else could have traveled there and back, other than the noble Knight of Honor? Whether Noxi slew the beast or not, he must have worn this charm around his neck as one of his storytelling props. This animal tooth was found in a wine cellar. This is where Noxi could have poured poison in our wine. He wanted to help Tallis' wife, Paloma, but the king shamed him instead. Noxi couldn't bear the feeling of rejection, and so he planned to murder King Tallis. Noxi denied everything, and he said this didn't prove he killed him. The only thing it proved was that he was at the wine cellar, which he didn't deny. He was just looking for a quiet place to talk to Lady Lona, Sir Frederick's widow. Oh, I see what you... Okay, he didn't know if the animal tooth was from him, but he swore he didn't do anything to the wine. The second piece of evidence was a decorated letter. The scribe included instructions detailing the usage of the poison and the map of our castle. It had a very specific decorated pattern, which matched only one lord who attended the wedding, Lady Lena. Only lords from the north decorated the letters in such an elegant way, and Lady Lena was the only northern visitor on the wedding night. The letter was found hidden beneath a paving stone in our gardens. The drawings on the letter depict a rowan tree, a symbol of protection against curses, a tree from which lords build their children's cradles to protect them against evil spirits. Lady Lena's boy was cursed, so she used these symbols to try to chase the demons away. There was no question as to who wrote this letter. Lady Lena also seemed to have a very good motive for wanting to kill Tallis. She threatened to kill him if the wedding took place, and it did. Then again, she denied everything. Last piece of evidence was the poison vial. With the very substance still inside, we were certain that this belonged to the person who poisoned King Tallis. It was a common knowledge that he had access to all sorts of poisonous substances, and our tests indicated that the substance from the vial matched the one used to poison King Tallis. Not only that, but it was found near Branca, a village under Eton's control. Tallis was against the dust trade, and as we have found out from Lord Lurs, Eton and Tallis were not on the best terms. With Tallis' death, weaker borders with Atana made it easier for him to distribute the dust beyond Davern. By poisoning King Tallis, she planned to expand their business, and based on Hermer's testimony, even his own residents know he was up to no good. He denied it, saying that it could have been anyone. You could find the product everywhere, and the vial did not prove a thing. There was no clear answer here, but we would have to sentence someone, or else Ivo would put all the blame on me. We did the best we could. Based on the evidence, I sentenced Lord Eaton. Oracle dust was a dangerous substance, and he was responsible for the death of King Tallis. I sentenced him to die. He said that his people would come for me. Ivo said that I found the one responsible for his father's death, and the outcome of this trial was satisfactory for him. And as such, Atana's forces would aid me in my struggle against Radovia. 3,000 men will be ready to strike when I blow the horn. I got an achievement for finding the evidence. Later that evening, this is where the battle will take place. Right there in the middle, that's where we will hold them off. I talked with Lord Sulia. With Ivo's help, we would be victorious. If he helped. We spent a lot of time talking. She really missed me, all of us. Brutus. Ivo was hitting her. She denied it. She implored me to not say anything, that it was better this way. She didn't want him to get more angry. I couldn't let this bastard do this. I would talk some sense into him. He appeared out of nowhere. Ivo said to pack her things. I confronted him. You think you wear the crown on your head and you can do whatever you want? Do you think I can't see what you do to her? You lay your hands on my daughter again, and I swear I'm going to... What? Defeat Radovia all by yourself? I think you're forgetting your position here, Eric. I give you my army, and thanks to me, this castle will see another day. You do not tell me what I can or cannot do. Davern is at my mercy, so you better address me with proper respect. Better leave off here. Too much talking will get you and your family into trouble. We're leaving Lord Sulia. Before I changed my mind, got an achievement for confronting Ivo, and this was the end of week 29. Time for the battle. We were late. Radovia had already managed to build up some defense. We would need to push them back and create a choke point at the foothills. We gathered everyone we could. Once we start, there was no way back. Audrey suggested we made a reserve army. We would get a small chunk of our main force and set it aside. I agreed. It was time. Today is not the day we fall, for we have made strong allies. And in our time of doubt, we need to remember that we are not here alone. But we won't need them today, for this is Tavern, and we stand our ground. The battle began. I could hear the screams. I told the archers to get ready. They got into position. They started launching the arrows. Their numbers were getting lower than us. I told the archers to attack one more time. The Radovian numbers were dwindling. Suddenly, something happened. A fog. Magic. We couldn't know what was happening down there. We needed to send support immediately. We could fight magic with magic. I decided to send the witch. I ordered her to use her magic. We were outnumbered. We needed to blow the horn. I went to do so myself. I told them to shoot one time after the other. They brought monsters. They ride armored bisons. We needed to do something. I decided to use the pikemen against them. Where was Zatanna? I went to blow the horn again. The archers shoot their arrows. A letter. Help isn't coming. We had a deal. That was no. These were not fire arrows. It was magic. Creatures made of flames. Magical fog, monsters, and now more magic. I decided to send Stan, the general. Despite what the letter said, I needed to try the horn again. Nothing. I had a bad feeling about this. Rain. These were the last squad. I ordered them to attack. We couldn't last much longer. There was no sign of Zatanna. The letter was right. It just kept on coming. We needed to send everyone in. Gather round. Let's show them what we were made of. We've seen beasts, magic, but they haven't yet seen what we have in store. Show them what Davern is made of. This is it. We gave them all we got. The gods saved us all. We survived. We got an achievement. We won the battle against Radovia, week 31. We were extremely lucky to win that battle. We lost most of our men. If not for that avalanche, we would have certainly been defeated. We needed to focus on strengthening an army. A message arrived. Eric, I thought justice would find you through Radovia's hands, but I suppose I will need to step in. You didn't think that I would believe your alleged proof that you did not murder my father. Truly, it seems to me that you have sentenced an innocent person to death. How does that make you feel? I saw through your lies, Eric. You not only killed someone for your own wrongdoing, but I see that you also perform evil occult practices. You always have a dirty trick up your sleeve, don't you, Eric? I suppose witchcraft is a perfect fit for a deceiver like you. Falling mountains right where you need them? There's no explanation for this, other than magic. Is this how you poisoned my father? Magic like this is dangerous, and it must be banished. There's only one way to set things right. Davern needs to be purged of all witchcraft. Starting from your throne room, I will remove all things diabolical from this world. The truth will come out. You will pay for your sins. Ivo, the king of Zatanna. The collapsing mountains were nothing but sheer luck at the dreadful time. Ivo promised us 3,000 men. It wouldn't last long if he comes at our gates with an army that large. We needed to call the king's summit. Other kings wouldn't want to help us, but we needed to try. If we're under siege, we better stock up on supplies. We should aim for at least 5 large crates of supplies. Starting with the audits, Babushka seemed to have given up. The villages had been cleared. They thanked me for my help. The people were happy. Orlando came back. My angels were needed in the castle. There was no time for this. The banker returned. In this time of need, I asked for some gold. The next peasant went outside to get some carrots from the pantry and found all his pots, pans, jugs, and cutlery smashed. Couldn't afford sending my angels now. The last peasant needed a new cow. Since the people's happiness was pretty low, I decided to send the witch to help. I sent the general to explore Milena. It was time for the king's summit. Welcome, and thank you for arriving upon my request. I have asked you all here to seek your guidance. Davern is in danger. Ivo, King Tallis' son, is threatening my people. Even worse, he has my daughter. Prior to the battle with Radovia, Tallis offered me 3,000 men. We expect that this is the army Ivo will bring against us. The other king was in no position to match that number. 1,000 men will be the best they could do. Also, the battle wouldn't be in an open field. Defending the castle with half as many men as the attacker would suffice. I asked if Davern could count on all of their help, but it wasn't that easy. They didn't have as much time to prepare. After the battle, numerous Radovians had scattered around their lands. If I helped them get rid of the leftovers, they would give me their army. One of the king didn't approve of this. They didn't want the Radovians dead. This king proposed to help the Radovians. He said that they were people like anybody else. If I helped them, I would have his army. It will take Atana around 19 weeks before they manage to march an army to Davern. If this king didn't have any problems with the Radovians by then, he will lend me his men. If this king heard that I was refusing to help the people of Radovia, he was out. Then suddenly, King Varid returned. He proposed a marriage for an army. I told him I will think this through. I would need to save supplies in order to prepare for the siege. When I had gathered enough supplies, they would make a crate of food. To be able to feed everyone during the siege, I would need 5 crates of supplies. I saved 20 supplies for this week. Week 32. Audrey said to consider Varid's offer more seriously. Even if we complete some of the king's tasks, their armies might not arrive on time. We needed to find another way to get more men. The lords wouldn't be able to give us any more men after we lost all of their troops. Perhaps we could muster the villagers. Sending pigeons wouldn't work. It would be best to send agents to call them directly. The general came back. A local baker was missing his flour deliveries, and it turned out that the horses and the cart got stuck in the mud on the way over. The general helped them, and the baker gave us a basket of fresh crusty bread rolls. 9 supplies. The hunter found and killed the wolves. They wouldn't cause any more problems. Next, the lady from the forest said that the oak tree was dead. Their people were mourning. The thunder didn't stop. They were all really scared. They decided to move to a new kingdom. I told her I was sorry. We lost some happiness. The dungeon guard said that in order to prepare for the siege, it might be a good idea to make improvements to the castle. Equipment and reinforcements were vital. He added a list of upgrades for me to check. Next, a peasant said that her husband was heavily wounded. He was a local hunter. He had an accident. Sadly, I wasn't able to offer any help this time. The next peasant said that his land was plundered, robbed by a horde of rabbits. He said it was a serious problem. I couldn't help with this. There were more important matters. Lastly, a painter came to visit with a special offer. He had a painting he wanted to sell to me. It was of the Battle of Braiana for 12 pieces of gold. Maybe I could take this and sell it to Grego. I decided to buy it. I sent a pigeon to him. I sent an agent to Jiraki and another one to Hasno to see if they will help us out. After all of this, I went to Asalia to tell her about King Varid. She didn't want to marry him. Lastly, I talked with Aurelia. She also disagreed about this. She even suggested that we flee, but we couldn't do that. We still had some time to prepare. The upgrades were incredibly expensive. 50 for a reinforced gate, 70 to build a moat, 40 for the ballista. I saved some resources, getting the first crate ready. Week 33. The general came back. The villagers agreed to see me soon. The witch prepared the herbal potion for the local cows, keeping the Madi away. Next, I sold Grego another painting, the one I bought, for 18 pieces of gold, gaining some profit, and gaining another achievement, empty walls. After this, one of the peasants I called arrived. I asked him to join my army. They agreed. I could count on them. He and his inn will support my kingdom. We got 6 men. The next peasant was really thankful because I helped them rebuild the entire village. I could count on their help too. Another 6 men. The expeditioner said that for the past couple of days, weird noises and humming was coming from a well. They thought someone was playing a trick on them, but no one could survive in the well for almost a week. I sent the witch to see what was going on. Last petitioner said that the butcher in their village kept throwing bits of leftovers on the path. They couldn't sleep because of the smell, and it could bring disease. I decided to send the general. Before ending the week, I sent the hunter to ask for help to the tavern owner. Here, I realized that people's happiness allowed me to gain more gold from taxes. This meant helping people not only let me have a bigger army, but also more gold. I set aside even more supplies, getting another crate ready. Week 34. The general tried talking to the butcher, but he didn't really want to listen. He wanted to come and see me. Next, a peasant said that my agent helped them. The monster was no longer milking their cow. As a thank you, they gave me a jug of milk. Not sure what I would do with this, but next peasant said that their travels continued. They said the rabbits kept taking their food. I decided to send the hunter. The tavern owner was here. I could count on him and his man. We were at 78. Next petitioner asked for shelter. Their village was destroyed. They had no place to go. I asked what village. Something seemed off. Radovians. Their people killed our brothers. They claimed to have come in peace. King Yetrick would only aid us with his army if we refused all requests from Radovia. We couldn't spare this amount of supplies when we needed to defend our home after having fought them. So I decided to get rid of them. I told them that I was really sorry, but we had no more room and couldn't risk rebellions from their people. Last petitioner said that he had his stomachache. For 5 days, there hasn't been a sign of the stool. His elf mother prepared a prune juice, special mixture, and it didn't work. He had it. I told them to find a healer, but they said it was too expensive. Since helping people at my income, I decided to help him. It wasn't too much gold anyways. Before ending the week, I sent one of my agents to the attacked village to ask for help. I set aside even more supplies, getting the third crate ready. Week 35. Audrey said that Lord Julia hadn't written in a while. He hoped everything was fine with her. The Witcher helped with the monster in the well. No magic was needed. The creature only needed a gift. It shouldn't cause any more problems. The peasant I asked to come accepted to help me. Their men will help. Next petitioner said that my general told them that he would be thrown out of the village if they didn't clean their mess. It was the butcher. He said people threw filth right in front of their house. And now their cart wheels were broken. They wouldn't clean up the mess unless everyone did it too. I couldn't waste any more money. I told him to clean the mess. I sent another agent to the town of Haliwa and another one to Polsek. Our army was almost ready, but had none of the upgrades for the siege, and money was dwindling. Week 36. The hunter said that he helped the villagers who had problems with the rabbits. The next peasant was grateful for sending the witch to help them. The last peasant I called for help agreed to help by cooking some food for my soldiers. This got me to 110 soldiers for the battle. With that taken care of, now we needed to focus on the supplies and the upgrades for the siege. Someone delivered a package from Atana. This could be a trap. Audrey said to dispose it right away. I decided to open it. It was a scarf. It seemed to be from Lord Julia, but there was no letter on it, just a black scarf. Next petitioner said that someone or something was stealing all kinds of things from their village. People were missing grain, onions, even gold. I sent my hunter to help. Last peasant asked to do something about Baltis. I wasn't able to send the hunter because he was busy, so I couldn't help. Before ending the week, I showed the scarf to my family. Oh no. Zadie said that it reminded her of Dusty. No! Wow, Dusty was dead. Ivo killed it. He would pay for this. Before ending the week, I sent my agents to visit the unexplored places in the map. I set aside more supplies, getting the fourth crate ready. Week 37. Something went through our window. It came from the gardens. Someone was shouting Azalia's name. I will need to check that out later. The general found an old wagon blocking a road. It looked abandoned. He moved it out of the way. Turns out the wagon was full of gold and supplies. The witch told me a small family living on the edge of the village had recently lost their child to a fever. Little could be done. They prayed for his soul, and she blessed the spirit. The parents were grateful for the help of the king. First petitioner of the day was happy that I convinced the butcher to clean up. Next peasant said that a woman was trying to take her baby away. The other one said that the baby was hers. I asked the woman why not cut him in half. One of them actually agreed. This made it clear who truly cared for the newborn. I went to the gardens. Turns out, Azalia changed her whole outfit. Maya helped her out. I decided to let her off. Before ending the week, I sent some agents to the unexplored places. Finally, we had the 5 crates we needed for the siege. For the next weeks, we needed to focus on the castle upgrades. Because of that, I decided to not pay the witch or the general. This way, I was able to pay for the reinforced walls, which would provide support against enemy trebuchets. Week 38. A message from Lorsulia. Father, I tried sending letters. I tried to tell you at the wall. Ivo always found a way to stop me from contacting you. You have no idea how happy I was when I heard you return home. I knew about Ivo's plans, but I couldn't tell you. Ivo threatened me. If I said a thing, then he would not only come for you, but my sisters and mother. He threatened to skin them alive. Ivo is frantic. He is mad. He believes that by getting rid of you, he will heal his mother and avenge his father. To hell with him. Atana and his god. Father, I'm scared, but it will be better this way. I can see now that there is no way out of it for me. Tell Sedani I'm sorry about Dusty. Tell Azalia to follow her heart. And tell Mother I love her. Don't hold back. I love you. She was saying goodbye. We needed to defeat Ivo, but we couldn't take the battle to him. I needed to show this to Aurelia. The general said that farmers kept having problems with birds eating their planted seeds. He helped them. They gave us some supplies in return. The witch said that she encountered a group of children in the forest. They were looking for the fern flower. She took them with their parents and gave us some supplies and their gratitude. First petitioner asked me if I heard about mudbugs, insect-like creatures living on the swamps, glowing at night. My hunter wasn't available to help, and I needed the money for the upgrades, so I couldn't help. Last peasant was working on all sort of buildings in the village, but his back was gone. He couldn't lift anything anymore. I couldn't help him either. I told my family about the letter. If we prepared well enough and win the battle, Lorsulia might come back home. I decided to not pay the agents once again, to be able to save up some money for the next upgrades. I spent some supplies for the hot oil to be able to throw it from the top of my walls, and mining equipment to be able to mine under the castle wall if needed be. Week 39. Audrey said that our army numbers were looking worrying. The hunter investigated the chimney demon problem and found the casket that the peasant mentioned. It could be possible that this casket carried a powerful curse, so we needed to be very careful with it. A merchant came by. He could exchange my supplies for gold, but I didn't have enough, so I had to pass. Aurelia had something to show me regarding our child. I should visit her in the bedchamber. Next, a peasant was afflicted with that itching sickness. He said that the touch of a king could cure all manner of ailments. I didn't think it was a bright idea. I declined. Last peasant wanted to upgrade their town. They gathered a large sum of gold and supplies, but it wasn't enough. They needed a lot of gold, so I had to decline. Aurelia said that there was a way to lift the curse. We could perform a ritual that will be able to lift the curse. I decided to go forward with it. We needed to gather several ingredients. We needed a special kind of mushroom with a vibrant blue color. We'd be able to find one around the castle. Also, a herb of grace, or rue. She would mark it on my map so I could send an agent to find it. We will also need 2 vials of Bethany oil, 1 Mogard oil, both of which were sold by traveling merchants. And lastly, 2 basilisk's eggs. We will also need to find a spellbook. The book was called Performance of Rituals, Curses and Healing. I found the book for the ritual in my council chambers. I also found the mushrooms needed in the dungeons. Before ending the week, I decided to skip paying the agents except for the general, so I could send him to look for the ingredients for the ritual. Week 40. The first peasant asked for the casket. I gave it to him. This granted us with some supplies and happiness. Then Sedania appeared. Her dress was all torn apart by scissors. It seems she wanted to imitate Azalia. I told her she could keep the dress. Next peasant said that his village was acquired by Lord Grego, but it used to be under the command of Lady Masha. Now, both of them were taking taxes from them. People's happiness was really low. I couldn't risk saying no to this, so I decided to send a general to help them. Last peasant asked for one of my hunters to help him with his missing potatoes, but I wasn't able to send him, and they were asking for too much gold, so I decided to decline this. Then, my soldiers brought the king of Radovia, the monster himself. I decided to execute him. He said he didn't want my daughters or my wealth, but it was too late. With the money that we had, I paid for the reinforced gate to be able to hold off the enemy for longer. Week 41. We were really low on gold, and just in time, the banker appeared. I took a loan for some gold. And then, Sedani brought a bear. What? A bear? Really? Sedani said that it could help us get Lorsulia back. Asked if Wojtek could stay. And I said yes, why not? I better talk with Aurelia about this. The only petitioner of the day said that his granary had been destroyed by the mudslide. I wasn't able to send a general, but since we had a surplus of supplies, I gave some to them. Happiness went up. That's cute. Ah. Before finishing the week, I sent the hunter to Warlock. For this week, I paid for the ballista, which would provide defense against the siege towers. And as I had some gold left over, I paid for a couple agents. The general spoke to Lord Grego and Lady Masha. They agreed to stop double taxing the village. The hunter stopped at an abandoned house on the side of the road. He found some gold there. This would come in handy. First petitioner was asking for some resources, but I wasn't able to afford this. I had to decline. Next, Serani told me Asalia was going somewhere she wasn't supposed to. The following petitioner told me that his village was plundered by some animals at night. I sent the hunter to deal with this. Last villager asked for some supplies, which I decided to give out. I went to the gardens to talk to Asalia. She was with Maya. She said that she loved her. With her, she felt safe, alive. I told her that Maya could return to the castle whenever she wanted. Before finishing the week, I sent the general out to look out for the herb needed for the ritual. One of these locations should be the correct one. Week 43. Audrey said that we needed to call King Sabit soon. It will be our last chance to talk to the kings before the battle. The general returned, but there were no signs of the rue herbs. Then, a fortune teller said that she had a special assortment for me, a special collection of magical rocks and crystals. The stones were really expensive. I had to decline. Next, traveling merchant. He was selling the oil I needed. I bought 2 units, plus the mugwort oil. Next petitioner said that there was something wrong with the horsekeeper's boy. He didn't even know how to speak. Nothing was helping. She said that he must be queen of the disease. But I wasn't able to send the witch, and I didn't have any gold, so I had to decline. Last peasant said that their village was flooded. I gave them all the supplies I could. Week 44. A peasant said that my hunter got lost in the swamps. We needed to wait for him. There was nothing else we could do. Next peasant said that everyone was sick. People in their village couldn't stop coughing. I sent the witch to take care of this. Last petitioner asked for some supplies. I gave it to them. A pigeon arrived. A message from Ivo. Your daughter, Lorsulia, was accused of treason, blasphemy, and witchcraft. Lorsulia plotted against her own husband, the king of Atana. Lorsulia of Davern was found guilty of witchcraft, occult rituals, and potion brewing. She was also found guilty of helping the enemy by magically letting them win a battle through collapsing the mountains. It was deemed necessary to ultimately cleanse her body by flame and pray to God to forgive her soul.
Punas. Inhalo.
Ka.
Echo.
Lorsulia was dead.
Oh.
They killed her. I told her what happened. I talked with my daughters about this.
Kuvina. Imo. Ikanap.
Week 45. Everyone was mourning that day. It was really touching. Some supplies. I sent my general to look for the herbs once again. Week 46. We found the herb. The only thing remaining were 2 basilisk's eggs. The witch said that she managed to find what was causing the problem in the village with the epidemic. The village upstream was throwing their waste into the river, contaminating the water. Another peasant said that their village was flooded again. They wanted a cow to sacrifice by the river to satisfy a monster that was causing this. I didn't have enough gold, and I couldn't send anybody, so I declined. Next, a soldier found some fleeting Radovians. He said that we got them chained up at the castle wall, and I should come and deal with them. My decision will impact who would side with me at the battle. Lastly, a traveling merchant. He was selling the basilisk's eggs. I bought 2 of them. Now we were ready for the ritual. I went to the castle wall and hanged all the Radovians. Got an achievement. It was time for the king's summit, and one of the kings decided to give me their army. Week 47. A peasant from the village with the epidemic returned. He tried talking to the people upstream, but they didn't listen. They didn't care. I decided to send a general to help them. The banker returned, and we needed money for the upgrade. So I asked for some more gold. Next, Asalia asked me to see her at the gardens. Another petitioner asking for help. Their pastor was sick. He had no one to do the weekly reading, but I couldn't do anything about this. I declined help. Last petitioner, again, asking supplies for the Murzana. I gave them some. Having taken care of all of this, I headed to the gardens to talk to Asalia. She was leaving. She and Maya wanted to travel the world. She didn't want the same fate as Lorsulia. She wanted to see the world. I let her go. Told her to say goodbye to her mother and to not forget to send letters. Got an achievement for letting her run away. Ivo's army was about 2 weeks away, and King Gedric's army was about 5 weeks away. They wouldn't be in time here to meet Atana. We should be able to wait it out till they arrive. A message. Wanted. Anyone who sees a witch is called upon to contact the nearest guard post. Ivo was using Lorsulia as an example to follow. Something happened in the council chamber. Noises coming from there, but everyone was too scared to go in. We went there quickly. Sidani, she was fine. She said she was playing around. The bear was too big and ran into things. She begged me not to kill him. I told her he wouldn't get another chance. One more accident, I would have to get rid of him, but for the moment she could keep it. The only petitioner of the week said that their village was abandoned. They had no more crops growing on their lands. They were forced to move. On their way here, they were held by bandits. They got robbed. They were begging for days in the village. I didn't have the general available to send, so I had no other choice than to give him some gold. They were really happy. Only 2 weeks remained. Week 49. The general spoke to the village, whose waste was on the river. They weren't happy. They had nowhere else to throw their waste. A merchant, just what I needed. He could exchange our supplies for gold. 25 supplies for 18 gold. I went for it. The peasant the general talked about. They said they couldn't throw waste in the path, they couldn't throw waste in the river, they didn't know what to do about it. I had the option to give them some gold to build a ditch, or just to take it into the woods. I couldn't spare any money, so I told them to take it to the woods. A peasant, they said they were ready for the contest. I needed to choose a favorite. I chose one of them. People were really happy. Last peasant, part of their village was flooded. They needed gold to buy resources to rebuild their houses, but I couldn't spare anything. Just in time, barely, I was able to buy the last upgrade I needed for the battle against Atana. It was time for the ritual. We had all the ingredients. We beg for forgiveness for calling upon you. We ask you to give us what we desired. Let the mountain break. Both the Bethany oil, then the mugwort oil, and the basilisk egg. It worked. We did everything correctly. It's the boy. I'll name you Edward, the Prince of Davern. She was alive. Got another achievement, Master of Magic. Now it was time for the siege. We gathered all we could. The siege could last weeks, months, years. We needed to last until King Gedric came. 3 weeks. Oh my god. 3,000 men. I needed to inspect the equipment, make sure everything was in order. I checked the ballistas, the hot oil, mining equipment, and the reinforced gate. Everything seemed to be in order. A white flag, saying to not shoot. They wanted to speak with me. King Ivo wanted truce, saying that no man needed to die tonight. If we pledge our lives to Ivo the Divine, we will be granted forgiveness. Shoot him! The rest of the archer squad was missing. I went downstairs and told them to get on the wall and to keep it together. Oh my god. This wasn't 3,000. It was at least double. There were too many, but we will stand our ground. Together we will repel the enemy. The small squad came forward. They were setting up trenches. The archers attacked. They seemed to be preparing to mine under the castle wall. If they managed to do so, they would collapse the tunnel and our wall will fall with it. We needed to stop them. I went downstairs to the mining equipment. We could mine underneath their tunnel and collapse it. I told my soldiers to form a small squad who start digging a tunnel. They began to do so. Trebuchets. Good things our walls were reinforced. Someone was at the gate. Peasants. asking me to let them in. They were women and children. I ordered to open the doors. I let them in. Atana seemed to have stopped for the moment, ceasing fire for the day. We were able to take a small break. We had 5 crates. We needed to decide how to split the supplies for the days to come. I told Audrey to give supplies to my family. Then I gave some to the soldiers, another one to the peasants, and also to the saved peasants. Suddenly, monsters in the castle, hounds running about. Told them to send the hunter. Turns out, the bear saved Sedani. If it wasn't for the bear, the hounds would have killed my family. This granted me another achievement. Week 2. Ivo's men were closing in. There was a smell, chanting. They were trying to lower our morale. I told my soldiers to not fear. We would defend our castle, but they couldn't breathe. I told them the smoke wouldn't do them any harm. Maybe I could find something to clear the fog. I went downstairs to talk to the witch. She could be able to swoosh their tricks away. I told her to get rid of the smoke. The smoke was fading away. The witch did her job. She paid the ultimate price. No. They were approaching at the gates. Our supplies were on fire? If we didn't put out the fire, we will lose some supplies. I told them to put it out. We lived through another day. We only had 1 crate of supplies left. I told Audrey to give it to my family and went to get some rest. 1 week until King Yedric arrived. Ivor's army was looking thin, but our army was looking great either. There were siege towers coming. Regarding the supplies, the soldiers complained about not getting anything. They don't have the strength to fight, and we have lost a few more men. Peasants ran away, and our people's contentment was going down. Even took some gold with them. Morale has dropped. Some men fled. Ivor was resuming the attack. Siege towers were incoming. I told them to get on the ballista. The archers, most of them were gone. They were getting inside. The battle lasted hours, but it was far from over. A deserter. I chose to spare him. I told the general to let him loose. Then I went upstairs. Atana's armies grew impatient. Davern soldiers rested when possible, but everyone had to stay at high alert. The queen was awaiting for me at the wall. I went upstairs. She couldn't sleep. Lord Julia missed so much. I wish we could have seen her laugh when Sedani brought the stabber, or when she got obsessed over that rooster. I wish she could argue with Asalia about Maya, or all the pranks her younger sister had pulled. I wish she could meet her new brother. I wish we could see who Lord Julia becomes. She misses her so much. I miss her too. She always looked after her sisters. She would have been a strong and wise queen. We needed to stay strong. For her. Lastly, I talked with Audrey to get some rest. But before doing so, I had a one with the soldiers. It was the end, so we could all have a drink. They were here. Atana was at the gate. Soldiers of Davern. Ivo strikes at our gate. He claims us to be liars, deceivers. He claims us to be playing with magic. He couldn't be more far from the truth. Ivo, the king of Atana, had burned my daughter, and now he comes to Davern, our home, to do the same with the rest of us. They want to burst through your doors, take your wife, take your children, take everything that belongs to you. We won't let them, for this is Davern, and you will stand your ground. For Davern, for your family, and for Lord Julia. I went to get to my family, told my soldiers to hold the line. King Yedric managed to arrive just in time. At last, after a seemingly impossible task, Davern was victorious. The final order. Ivo, you did it. 5,000 men didn't manage to get through these walls. Nothing but a scratch. Why did the gods listen to you? What did you do? Of all people, they chose you. I promised them I will cleanse this world of magic. What sorcery is this? There was no magic. It was nothing but a lot of preparation, hard work, and a bit of luck. If there was magic, it would have been a whole lot easier. Stop beating around the bush. Did you make a deal with the devil? Tell me, how did you do it? All I want to know is how you poisoned my father. Are you still blaming me for this? I was sure it was you. You and your tricks. May the gods damn you. I prepared the perfect plan. I set up all the possible evidence. The tooth, the vial, the letter. The only difference is the evidence was meant to point to a person who had killed you, not my father. It was you after all. I prepared the poison, true, but I never planned to kill my own father. You tried to kill me during the wedding night. It was nothing personal. If you were to step down from this throne, I would be the king of Davor. With your daughter at my side, I would have had no problem getting local lords and barons to accept me on the throne. And with the clues I scattered around, I would have led the investigation, and believe me, I would have done a much better job at presenting the evidence. After the royal trial, people would have to be on my side. As for Atana, I would get the crown sooner or later, but I would have proved to my father that I can take action. And who knows, maybe your archives did have a clue to how my mother could be cured. And if that happened, we would all be a big, happy family once again. You keep saying I poisoned Talus, but there's no scenario in which that would have benefited me. And it sounds like you didn't poison him either. As frustrating as it is, it looks like we will never find out who did the dirty deed. You won already. Just tell me, Eric, how did you swap the cups? I didn't. You weak, slimy liar. You disgust me. Weak, slimy, gross. What? He's all slimy and sticky. Kind of gross. I looked for him everywhere. I've stirred up every pot, even in the kitchen. Smudged the snail. Sheer luck. What? If it wasn't for Sedani's snail, I would have been served the poisoned wine. Sedani said she stirred up every pot in the kitchen. That's when she must have changed the cups. The poisoned drink that was meant for me was instead served to Talus. I was defeated by a snail? All of this because of a snail. You will regret this, Ivo. It's over. Ivo, king of Atana. You're charged with the poisoning of King Talus and attempting to kill me, the king of Davor. Treason, waging unjust war against the kingdom of Davor. And most of all, the ruthless murder of Princess Lorsulia. She deserved none of it. And as such, you will be met with the final justice. Say your prayers. This is the end of the road. The final justice is upon you. You're a fool to think this will change a thing. Tan is brave, proud. My men will never let you rest once they hear their king is dead. Raise yourself, for the age of wrath awaits you. Maybe, but you won't be there to see it. Ivo was sentenced to death for his actions. A moment of peace, at last. It won't be long before the young prince will be taking over. I couldn't wait. I was getting too old for this. Who would have thought that sitting in one place could be this stressful? And so, Sedani, Aurelia, and Azalia managed to survive. I got an achievement. My kingdom was safe. Paloma, Talus' wife, never recovered from her disease. Ivo's successor to the crown of Atana treated his defeat as a disgraceful waste of resources and swore this would never happen again. With that in mind, Atana started gathering new units under their banner. A new war was on the horizon. I decided to kill Bayron for what he did. So, without someone to lead them, Bayron's free people scattered across the land, forever trying to hide their accents in fear. No Rodovian could ever feel safe in Davor. I let Azalia run away with Maya, although I never saw my daughter again. She never forgot to send a letter about her latest adventures with Maya, the love of her life. I slept better at night, knowing that Azalia was happy. Prince Edward brought plenty of joy to our lives. Unfortunately, despite my greatest efforts, the people of Davor were not pleased with my rule. They united against me and overthrew the crown, but that's another story. Up until my last moments, I never stopped regretting some of my choices. I wish I could turn back time to make a different call. This was Yes, Your Grace. Got an achievement for completing the game. After my first playthrough, I had to start over and pet the cat 3 times, ran out of supplies, told Lorsulia she would be fine instead of I love you, helped Lord Eaton with his dust trade, turned the tavern into a public house, let Audrey take the blame in the real trial, make Asalia marry Varid, help all Rarovians, buy all gemstones from the fortune teller, and lastly, become a mad king by letting Aurelia die, kill the deserter, kill Lord Jovan, kill Bayron, and all Rarovian survivors. Thank you to Warhammer 40,000 Tacticus for sponsoring this video. Remember to scan my QR code on screen or click the link in the description to download the game and use the code HelloMar to earn 2000 coins and 50 black stones.